The 26th election has left pollsters scratching their heads, historians scribbling notes, and political strategists re-examining their game. Will this election cycle forever change how campaigns are covered and predicted? Joining me now with answers, University of Texas presidential historian H.W. Brands and Jason Johnson, journalism professor at Morgan State University and politics editor at TheRoot.com. Guys, what do you say to those who say Donald Trump's business conflicts are not without precedent in American presidential history? I'm going to toss that one to you, Jason.
They're not without precedent. We saw this with Bush. We've seen this with previous presidents. I think the issue that people have with Donald Trump is because he never released his taxes, and it's a privately held company. We don't know what kinds of conflicts of interest he may have and how the government would be able to insulate the people from those conflicts of interest having an impact on policy. So that's one of the real questions. By him being such a non-traditional candidate who sort of refused to follow the basic norms of transparency, it leads the entire country to really wonder and worry about what his presidency might mean for his business and other businesses.
And H.W., Secretary Clinton, like Al Gore, won the popular vote but lost where it matters with the Electoral College. After these sort of things happen, there's always buzz about potentially getting rid of the Electoral College. That would require a constitutional amendment. Of course, Republicans hold control over the House and Senate. Is this something that could potentially happen down the line, and is it something that you'd want to see happen?
Well, first of all, it's not going to happen for a very long time because the smaller states that have an inordinate role in the Electoral College are going to resist it. And it requires 3/4 of the states to pass it. So it's really a dead letter as far as the eye can see. Would it be a good idea? The upside is that it would be sort of a straightforward manifestation of democracy. You get the most votes, you win. But the downside is that in a really close election, there might be a national recount. It's bad enough if you have statewide recounts. We saw that in Florida in 2000. Imagine if there had to be a nationwide recount. There would be no end to it.
Speaking, though, of the Electoral College, initially it was enacted or put in place so people could vote against, potentially, the rural communities who maybe didn't make the right choice. There's a movement out there right now to get the Electoral College, the folks that are actually in the Electoral College, this group of people that nobody knows, to change their vote. H.W., is that something that is just completely ludicrous? And if so, why not just get rid of it?
Well, it is completely ludicrous in any kind of real political sense. It's not constitutionally out of the question. But if Donald Trump was talking about a rigged election sort of before Tuesday, if this actually happened, then he would have a very good case to make that the election was rigged against him. It's just, the thing is that the Electoral College is an institution that was designed for the 18th century. But because our Constitution is so hard to change, it survives into the 20th century, 21st century. No one would think to invent it today. But because it's stuck there, I'm afraid we're stuck with it for a long time.
Jason, let's talk about social media. A lot of people are pointing the finger at Facebook, saying that they're just catering to what each user wants to hear, using fake news at times. What role do you think social media played in this election, and do you believe that it should change?
Well, I think social media played a huge role in this election because most of us were following the tweets of Donald Trump. And he basically used social media as his own bully pulpit to directly communicate with the people. But look, we've had Google bubbles for a long time. A Google bubble is the fact that if you Google enough on your particular smartphone or your laptop, it starts to influence what kind of search results you get, and that happens with everybody. So we're all sort of controlling our social media, controlling our internet for the information that we want, and that's not new. I don't think that's going to change. I think that's sort of like arguing, well, we need to watch less television. Television is now part of how Americans communicate. But I will say this, and this is something else, I agree with H.W. about this. It won't ever change, but I have to say it wouldn't be a bad idea if we finally argue that in the event of a split between the Electoral College and the popular vote, that the popular vote winner wins. I think that's a bit more democratic, but that's not likely to happen in our lifetimes either.
H.W.
I would
Brands.
just add one.
Oh, go ahead.
If I could add just one thing on that.
Sure.
It's possible, and some states are already going this way, that without a constitutional amendment, the states themselves can decide that they want to apportion the electors by congressional district rather than winner takes all across the state.
Much like the
So that would be a
primaries.
step in that direction. Yeah.
Yeah. H.W. Brands, Jason Johnson, thank you guys so much for joining us.